Welcome back to Echo Mind Documentaries. If this is your first time here, subscribe, like, share, and turn on notifications so you never miss a story. Before lions stalked the savannah, before wolves ran in packs across frozen tundra, before the great cats ruled the night, something else held dominion over this earth. Something that looked almost familiar, yet belonged to a world most of us have never imagined. This is the story of a creature that dominated an entire age of our planet and then vanished as if it had never existed at all. Imagine an animal the size of a bison, built like a wild pig, armed with a skull so massive and jaws so powerful they could crush bone like dry wood. For millions of years, nothing on land dared challenge it. Scientists call it an Entelodont. Everyone else calls it the hell pig, but that name does not begin to tell the full story. There's a moment in deep time that most history books never reach, a moment before the ecosystems we recognize today had taken their shape, before the horse galloped across open plains in its modern form, before the elephant raised its trunk toward ancient canopies, before the predators we name and study and fear had claimed their thrones. In that moment, during the long, slow churning of the Eocene and into the Oligocene epoch, a different kind of order governed the land. And at the center of that order stood an animal so formidable, so architecturally extreme, that paleontologists still struggle to place it neatly into the story of life on Earth. The Entelodonts were not dinosaurs, they were not prehistoric reptiles, they were mammals, more closely related to modern hippos and whales than to any creature you might expect. They walked upright on hooved feet, they nursed their young, and they possessed a skull that proportionally was among the most imposing ever produced by the mammalian lineage. Some species grew to the size of a large cow, others were smaller, quicker, opportunistic. But across every branch of the family, there was a defining characteristic that set them apart from everything else that shared their world: their jaws. The skull of Archaeotherium, one of the best-studied entelodonts from North America, measured nearly a meter in length in the largest specimens. The teeth were not the delicate, specialized tools of a grazer. They were thick, conical, built for crushing. Bony knobs and flanges jutted from the cheekbones and lower jaw, giving the face a grotesque architectural quality that made even large herbivores of the period nervous. These were not decorative features, they were functional. They anchored enormous muscles that gave the Entelodont a bite force researchers estimate could have shattered the femur of an animal its own size. And yet, the Entelodont was not a pure predator. This is where the story becomes genuinely strange. The fossil evidence suggests something far more complex than a simple killer. Analysis of fossilized teeth shows wear patterns consistent with plant material. Analysis of dig sites in places like the White River Badlands of South Dakota shows Entelodont remains alongside the bones of other animals, with bite marks that match their dental signature. They were apparently willing to take a carcass, willing to drive other animals off a kill, willing to pursue prey when the opportunity arose. In modern terms, we might call them hypercarnivorous omnivores. In practical terms, they were the kind of animal that ate whatever it wanted and allowed nothing to take that meal away. The fossil record of the Entelodonts stretches across an extraordinary geographic range. Remains have been found in North America, Europe, and Asia, suggesting that during their time, these animals moved across land connections that no longer exist, adapting to different environments and diversifying into distinct species. Entelodon magnus, found across Europe and parts of Asia, was among the largest known members of the family, with a body mass that some estimates place near 1,000 kilograms. Daeodon shoshonensis, which roamed North America during the Miocene, was similarly massive and represents the last known survivor of the entire lineage before it disappeared from the fossil record approximately 19 million years ago. The world the Entelodonts inhabited was not the world we know today. The continents sat in configurations different enough to alter ocean currents, climate patterns, and the corridors through which animal populations moved.
Forests that no longer exist covered regions that are today open grassland. Seas that have since retreated left their marks in sediment layers now exposed by erosion. The Entelodonts did not simply live in ancient environments, they were shaped by those environments, and in turn, they shaped them. Their presence in an ecosystem would have altered the behavior of every other large animal sharing that space. Evidence of this shaping can be found in a remarkable series of fossils discovered in the Badlands of Nebraska and South Dakota. At sites associated with the Brule and Chadron formations, researchers have found the remains of ancient rhinoceroses, early horses, and other large mammals, bearing bite marks that match the dental profile of Archaeotherium. Some of these animals appear to have been cached, their bones gnawed and then returned to repeatedly over time, in a pattern that suggests a level of behavioral complexity beyond simple opportunistic scavenging. These animals were not eating and moving on. They were, in some meaningful sense, managing their food sources.
There is something unsettling about contemplating a world in which the dominant large omnivore is an animal that looks, in rough outline, like an overgrown pig with the skull of a nightmare. Our instinct is to impose familiar categories. We want to call it a predator or a scavenger, an herbivore or a carnivore. But the Entelodonts resist those categories. They were generalists in the deepest sense, capable of exploiting nearly every food source available to a large terrestrial mammal of their era. And that flexibility was likely a central reason for their success across so many millions of years and so many different environments. It is also worth noting what the Entelodonts were competing against and coexisting with during their long reign. The large cat lineage, the felids as we know them today, had not yet reached their apex forms. The canid family existed but had not yet produced the pack hunters that would later transform predator-prey dynamics across entire continents. The great bears were still in early development. In this ecological vacuum, or more precisely in this ecological opening, the Entelodonts filled a role that would later be divided among several different and highly specialized predator lineages. They were, in a real sense, doing the work of multiple future animals simultaneously. When the Entelodonts finally disappeared, it was not a sudden catastrophe that erased them. It was the slow, grinding pressure of a changing world. Climates shifted, forests retreated, and grasslands expanded, altering the food webs that had sustained the family for tens of millions of years. New predator lineages, faster and more specialized, emerged and filled niches that the Entelodonts had previously occupied alone. The last Entelodonts, the massive Daeodon walking through North American landscapes in the early Miocene, were already living in a world that was becoming less hospitable to generalists of their scale. Piece by piece, the conditions that had made them possible were stripped away. And yet they left something behind. Not descendants in a direct lineage, not a family that persists to the present day. What they left was a mark in the fossil record precise enough to tell us a great deal about what is possible for a mammal, about how far the body plan of a hooved animal can be pushed in the direction of dominance, about how a creature without claws and without the sleek musculature of a modern cat can nonetheless become the most feared presence in its ecosystem. The Entelodonts are a lesson written in bone about the diversity of solutions evolution is capable of producing when given sufficient time and sufficient pressure. There is something quietly humbling about standing at the edge of this story. The world is very old. The configurations of life that currently exist on this planet represent only one of countless arrangements that have been tried and abandoned over billions of years of biological experimentation. The Entelodonts remind us that the rules governing which animals thrive and which disappear are not fixed. They are written in geological time, and they are subject to revision without notice. Before predators ruled as we know them today, something else held that ground. Something massive, opportunistic, and built for a world we can only reconstruct from fragments in stone.
The hell pig walked this earth for tens of millions of years and then was gone, leaving nothing behind but its bones, its bite marks, and the questions it raises about the deep history of life. Those questions, it turns out, are more than enough.